Okay, how we all doing today? My name is Remains Okpe Olua One. So today is an unscripted edition that we'll be looking at something that is very, very interesting. And so the reason why this is unscripted is not is basically a discussion from my heart of heart. Is not something that is planned for. Uh, Basically, something that I've been noticing in the Nigeria real estate space, and I, I feel strongly that we really, really, really need to look into it and start that discussion now before we enter into something that can collapse and kill the real estate market. And so basically, what we'll be talking about today is the Nigerian property market, the real estate market in Nigeria. And maybe some of the points I'll be raising will focus more on Lagos anyway, but it is very, 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 very important topic. It's very, very important discussion that we really, really need to have as a people, because we need to examine ourselves as a developing country, a developing real estate market, that how are we really faring? And this is not to in any way start the ministry of of correction in any way or form, but we just need to understand and be aware of some of the fundamentals and some of the areas that we are getting it right and some of the areas that we are getting it wrong, and where we are heading as a people, because it is very, very important. If we don't examine where we are heading as a people, most likely we are going to be heading towards where we don't want to really be. So, like I said, this is a very unscripted edition. So, what we are looking at is the Nigerian property market, and the question in my mind is: are we heading the China way? Are we heading the China way? So somebody can say, if we are heading the China way, then that is a positive way that we are heading. But I asked that question for a reason, because there are things that are happening in the property market in China that, in a way, the factors are similar to some of the trajectory that we are following in Nigeria. But there are so many things that China has working for them that it does not, we really don't have it working for us. So this is going to be the beginning of deep dive into some series I'll be doing at interval, because it's going to be based on research, it's going to be based on a lot of insights, and so I'll be picking them one after the other and all of that. So number one is the for instance, now real estate at some point, 2022, 2021, 2023 was as much as over 30% of the GDP of China was backed up with real estate. So you need to understand what that really means. Government were selling land to developers, at premium, and most of these developers were building houses in emphasizing that properties. A lot of people will come and buy those properties. We are going to examine some of the reasons and why there was so much boom, and people were really, really buying, and people were just latching on it. It was a trend, and in a way, because there's a lot of houses that were being built, because China is basically the factory of the world. So they were doing a whole lot of construction, a whole lot of construction, a whole lot of construction. And what happened is that it's spiral into a whole lot of other industry. For instance, the cement industry. I remember there was a statistics that the cement China used in 30 years, America did not use it in over 100 years. The cement China used, the volume of cement that China used in 30 years, America did not use it in 100 years. So all of a sudden, China has the biggest bank, the biggest cement, the biggest in construction, the biggest in a whole lot of stuff. And you understand. So they were, I mean, the biggest in debt, biggest. So it helped to build a whole lot of industries. And what that translated into is that they were building houses, people were making down payments, and the bubble just busted. So because most of the houses that they were building were basically, people were buying with the hope that, okay, I'll buy maybe this house for $30,000, and it will appreciate, it will appreciate, it will appreciate, and it became a bubble, right? And most of the loan facilities too that those developers were having access to were um, were based, the financing of most of those facilities were based on the fact that people will keep buying, and people were buying too on the basis that things will keep appreciating. So that was one of the reasons why the whole thing became a bubble. Like I said, this is very, very unscripted. Okay, so the other dimension is the fact that most of these developers were just relying on debt because they were literally free fund in China. I mean, the a lot of government subsidy on some of the, I mean, because of the kind of economy that China runs, um, government control a lot of things. There are government-owned property companies, government-owned banks, government-owned a whole lot of stuff, and there are other private business owners too. And anytime, for instance, the EV market, the electric car market, vehicle market in China received a whole lot of subsidy. I mean, subsidy over like a 7 year period was about 50 billion US dollars. 50 billion. So it was a whole lot of subsidy, and it helped to ignite the market. So it's nothing wrong. It's a government policy that government want people to move in a particular direction. So government usually release such subsidy schemes and policy in place and all of that. So also in the housing market, right? It was like the housing was like a tool to develop a whole new cities. I mean, there are cities that are empty. Some were built, became empty, and there were a lot of demolition of some of those things that were being built before, and all of those things. So basically, the municipalities, basically the states, were selling land, government land, to developers so that they can build. Developers were building prototypes, sample houses. People were dropping their, because most of these things were even off plan. So at some point, inflation started happening, and this really eat up the market in China. And gradually, some of us will start saying the reason why some of these things are similar to what is happening in Nigeria. So it's really eat up the market, and boom, the whole thing were just going crazy. The market went so much crazy that most of these developers started defaulting on their debt because they over leveraged, right? They over leveraged, and they didn't do the risk assessment. Somebody said lack of proper risk assessment is what makes an expert a star boy, a poster boy, a prisoner. Lack of proper risk assessment. Okay, and most of these developers too, because they were, I mean, they had free access to debt. They had a lot of loan. They leveraged property. They've not even built as collateral and all of those things. So they were diverting funding to different things. Money that they were supposed to use to build houses as fast as possible, complete some of those houses, and edge against inflation. They were not doing it. Some of them were opening clubs, some of them football clubs. Some, in fact, there was one Evergrande that had 4 football clubs. So divergent of funds. I mean, you can see some of these things are happening in the Nigerian real estate market already. Okay, so it became crazy, 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 crazy. Having food chain, yes, you divert. Diversification is not the problem, but you don't diversify at the expense of delivering to customers, at the expense of delivering to people that you have raised money from. You don't diversify at their expense. That's basically what most of those markets, the Chinese company, some of them were moving outside the country. They were moving volumes of billions and millions outside the country to go and do the same thing that they were doing in China in other places. So that's really the um, some of the few things that happened in the market, talking about the government side and the developer side. But let's now look at what are the really things that was responsible for people to keep buying. And you will see that some of these things are already in the Nigerian market. Number one, emotion and culture. All right. So in the Chinese case, I mean, there were one child. There was a time was there was one child policy and all of those things, and there was a time too. There was a policy that Chinese citizen cannot own property, and all of a sudden they started making money. The policies was resented, was vacated, and the people can start owning properties, and people were just buying properties, buying properties, buying properties, buying properties because they just believe that it will keep appreciating because they had a large population and the population keep increasing. In fact, let me diversify a little. Let me chip in this. Do you know that because of government irresponsibility and the euphoria of the moment, there was a time the government released a false statistics that people were running with, that there was over 100 million more people at the youth level than it is really. I don't know whether we understand what I mean. What it means that the middle class, really the youth, the people that are 30, 40 below, are the one that drives every economy. They are the working class, they are the spending class, they are the aspirational class, and all of those things. And the government of China overestimated that population by 100 million. Imagine. So people were like, 100 million people, the market is as big as 100 million people are coming to buy, not knowing that it was more or less like a fallacy, right? It was not real. So it was based on that statistics that people were just constructing, thinking that there's 100 million market somewhere that is coming to buy what they were constructing. But unfortunately, there's nothing like 100 million people that are coming to buy what they were constructing at all. So that's number one thing, was a major error, both from the government censors and all the other government stuff. Okay, so why is the market similar? So number one is emotion and culture. Culturally, we believe so much in real estate, and so also the Chinese market to believe so much in real. In fact, it's a status thing. So we are emotionally attached to it. We are buying it for emotional reasons. Is one of the reasons why we buy real estate in this place. That's why buzz can easily be created. Buzz can easily go south. A lot of things do happen in the real estate market. Okay. Number two is lack of better options. One thing about real estate, which is actually truth, is that there are not too. I mean, you don't need too many level of intelligence and bureaucracy to go into real estate as a developer or as somebody that is buying, right? But you need quite a number of expertise to become a stockbroker and all the rest like that. So these are some of the reasons why. So the same thing in China. People just buy, sell. I mean, it's like trading, right? It's like trading. So you don't need too many form of intelligence to be able to get such done. Okay. The other thing is trends and speculation. A lot of trend, a lot of speculation. Buy land now, don't worry, it will appreciate, it will appreciate. So what are the indices? So people are buying places that there are possibilities that it will not appreciate in 50 years, and people are using short-term funds to buy long-term properties and all of those things. So a lot of over leveraging are, I mean, it's currently happening in the market, and it's bound to backfire. I mean, that is more or less like you're sitting on the gun, or the keg of the gunpowder. It's bound to explode at some point in time. Then Ponzi scheme, people instead of selling real estate, some of them are basically selling hope. So a lot of people are paying for properties for a long time, and they are really not going to, it's the property they are paying for that they will never get. So there are so many companies that are basically selling hope. And when you are selling hope, you are indirectly selling a Ponzi scheme. You know, they are not getting value for whatever they are selling. And a whole lot of people are robbing Peter to pay Paul. Okay. So people go to the market, raise debts, use it to buy land, thinking that the land will increase, to sell it so that they can pay the debt back. And even, I mean, in some cases, some of them have even spent the projected profit upfront. So they are with land that uh, they are hoping that will appreciate, and thinking that the population will just keep boom, boom, boom. Look at Nigeria. I mean, how did we've not done any censor that has been generally acceptable in the last almost 30 years. It has been one story after the other and all of those things. I mean, look at the inflation right now. So the trueness of our population has really not been tested. Look at, and it's a reflection of some of the things we see in our elections, right? We say we have a large middle class, we have 70% of Nigerians are less than 40, blah, blah. Those are statistics a lot of people, businesses are using, are running with. A lot of people have traveled out of this country, millions have shipped out. But by the time you see immigration statistics, you'll be shocked. But I thought everybody has left this country. By the time you see election, I mean, how can we be 220 something million and less than 20 million votes? It's something. How can we? So these are things we really, really, really need to start questioning so that we will not end the China way. So, like I said, this is basically an unscripted discussion about the real estate sector. So, hopefully, God helping me, I'll be able to break them down, things we should do, things we should avoid, both as developers and the people that are buying. I'm trusting for strength to be able to expand this and come back with a proper teaching. Okay. So my name still remains Okwe Oluwa Oye. I hope this has been a great one for you. Okay. So let me leave you with this parting shot. Don't ever allow anybody tell you that you cannot win. You are born to win. So play big so that you can win big. Bye for now.